Hey, what is up guys? It's Brendan here, and today we're going to be taking a look at 5 of the best accounting software for freelancers and self-employed individuals. Now, these tools can be absolutely crucial to understanding and separating your income and your expenses, as well as your personal and business income and expenses as well, so you can actually know what your final net profit is in your business at the end of the month and at the end of the year as well, when it comes for tax time. So these can be absolutely crucial software and tools to manage a variety of different aspects within your small business. Of course, as a freelancer or a self-employed individual, it's absolutely crucial that you keep track of your overall finances. Now, in these softwares, we're going to be taking a look at a wide variety of different software, some of which include free versions as well as paid versions. It does just depend on what your needs are. So that's what we're going to be looking at here in today's video. And if you do want to check out any of the companies mentioned here in today's video, you can go and check out those links linked down below in the video description. Again, some of which are affiliate links, which can be a great way to help out and support the channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at that number one spot. So at the number one spot, we have Wave. Now, I've covered Wave many times on the channel, and they are one of my personal favorites when it comes to accounting software, as well as for freelancers and people that are self-employed. A lot of you guys are probably on a budget. You're looking for something that's either free or very cheap, and Wave checks, honestly, both of those boxes. They really do work well for people who are just a single solo person. Maybe you're a sole proprietor in your business. Maybe you do this, whatever you do, as a side hustle. You know, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on accounting software. You don't necessarily need all the features that, other small businesses and mid-sized businesses might need. Wave is absolutely perfect for that. We're going to be diving into pricing as well in just a moment, but I will say that they do actually have a completely free version as well. Now, that free version over time does have, some of its limitations, which we'll be getting into, but I do also want to mention I have full tutorials about Wave on the channel as well. I will leave links down below in the video description to those videos, so if you are interested in Wave, they are a really great accounting software. Now, I do recommend them a lot to a lot of small business owners, as well as people who are freelancers, sole proprietors, solopreneurs, so to speak, right? It's because they help you keep track of your overall income and expenses. You can see your cash flow statements, you can see your income and your expenses. And one of the things that I do like about Wave is it's very easy to use it as a single entry accounting system. What does that mean exactly? It means you're just logging your income and the expenses a single time, so you see your overall profit and loss throughout the month. Now, you can choose to use double entry accounting, where you're doing double entry, which is a more advanced method of accounting. You don't necessarily have to, but if you want to, you can also do that within Wave as well. So I did also just want to mention that there, because there are a few other softwares later in this video that are a little bit more limited in that respect. One of the other nice things about Wave is you can import your data. Now, that is on the paid version if you're going to be importing data automatically. That is limited to the Pro plan, which we'll get into the pricing in just a second here. You can link, as many bank and credit card connections, and you can see your overall cash flow. Now, I will say Wave doesn't necessarily have as many other specific features when it comes to like mileage tracking or time tracking. Wave is a little bit more basic there. There's other software in this list that are maybe a little bit better at those features specifically. But if you're really just looking at seeing your overall income and expenses, then Wave can be an absolutely great solution for you, and it is much cheaper. Again, that's why they're at the number one spot here for people who are balling on a budget, so to speak. And the other nice thing about Wave is not only just an accounting software, you can also do invoicing as well, and accept payments that will automatically be logged inside your Wave account, which can be crucial for a lot of people who are freelancers. You do need to get paid for your services that you're offering, especially if you're offering services maybe outside of platforms like Upwork. If you're doing things directly with clients and you are doing direct client communications and you need to send invoices and get paid on those invoices, then Wave can be a good option for that, because you can accept payments directly through Wave as well. You can also do ACH and credit card payments on their payments platform. So that is another perk to using them for your accounting softwares. You can also, you do get that as well as part of your overall Wave account. So you can get paid, as you can see here, with the ACH bank payments on your invoicing, as well as credit card payments. Now, in terms of other accounting features, Again, it is pretty simple and straightforward as far as you log your transactions, you categorize them. I will say the categorizations aren't necessarily completely up to date with IRS standards. You might have to edit and tweak them just a little bit, but as long as you have the general categories set, it shouldn't really be too much of a problem when it comes tax time, as long as you know, hey, these are all business expenses. The other perk with Wave 2 is if you do have multiple businesses or just like multiple things that you're doing, you can also even create multiple businesses within a single Wave account for free, which is really cool and is a nice perk that not a lot of people mention, and that can be really nice for separating out separate businesses too, which is a nice little perk with Wave. Now, getting into the pricing specifics with Wave, they do have a starter plan and a pro plan. Now, the pro plan is $16 a month currently as the time making today's video. This is accurate. Be sure to check out the pricing pages to get the most realistic and up-to-date pricing. Always want to say that disclaimer there because this is always changing. The starter plan is free. Now, the difference here is that you have to do things manually when you're managing the overall income and expenses. Now, if you don't have a whole lot of transactions, starter plan could be all that you need. If you just have a few transactions per month and you can just manually copy them over from your bank account and maybe import your bank statement or something like that, you can do that on the starter plan for free. But if you do have a lot of transactions, probably would make sense to go with the pro plan just because you can automate a lot more things and you can auto import those bank transactions without having to spend as much time every month, not only just categorizing them to see your overall expenses and managing, what your expenses look like as well as your income, but also then importing them too. So that is something to consider. They do have the annual plan, which is also a way to save money too versus the monthly plan. So it does work out to be still a pretty cheap option when it comes to accounting software for sure. Probably the cheapest, even on their pro plan, beyond just the free starter plan. So if you do want automatic transactions, definitely would recommend that probably. For a lot of people, if you have a lot of transactions, if you don't have that many transactions and you're just getting paid like once a month and you just want to see like where you're actually at and seeing like where your freelance business is, then it could be a good option for you, especially when it comes down to just managing your overall finances. So that is Wave. Moving in at number 2, we have Intuit QuickBooks. Now, Intuit QuickBooks is actually the accounting software that I personally use for my small business. Now, it may or may not be necessarily the best solution for you, depending on your overall needs with the features. One thing about QuickBooks is they do have multiple different plans, even just within the self-employed freelancer side of things as well. So they do have a lot of scalability, and they are one of the most popular accounting software solutions out there. They do have a lot of different app integrations. A lot of different accountants know them. So maybe if you also are maybe even hiring additional help, then QuickBooks is probably the one that most accountants are familiar with if you are going to be hiring additional bookkeeping help. If you're doing everything yourself, it is still pretty easy to do. I mean, honestly, same thing with Wave. If you're doing everything yourself, it's really not that hard to learn. Same thing with QuickBooks as well. But I did just want to also mention that it is just very popular and most people do know it. Now, when it comes to the overall features within QuickBooks, right, you can see your overall income, your expenses. You can also send out invoices as well. So that is a nice feature. And you can see your overall deductible expenses so that when it comes tax time, you kind of know where everything's at. And that is actually, speaking about tax time, that is one of the perks I do really like about Intuit QuickBooks, because Intuit does also own TurboTax. They have all of the accurate, up-to-date, like, expense categorizations imported right into QuickBooks, so everything is accurate when it comes to, like, hey, is this a meals expense, right? Is this a travel expense? Is this airfare expense? Is this hotel? Like, where all the different current up-to-date IRS categories fall, especially in the United States, it is all up-to-date within QuickBooks, which is something that you don't have to worry about, which is a really nice perk when you're logging your categorizations. Like, you don't have to rename and add a bunch of extra categorizations when you get set up with QuickBooks. It's already all in there, 100% accurate to like what the IRS has for that year, because they also own a tax preparation service, so called TurboTax. Of course, you've probably heard of them. So that is something else just to consider with expense logging If you have a lot of transactions, it matters a lot more, in my opinion. If you don't have as many transactions like Wave, like it's not really a big point of comparison there. Now, in terms of the different plans that QuickBooks has, they have a few different options. QuickBooks Money is not an accounting software or bookkeeping software, so I'm not really covering that in this video here today. That is pretty much just for invoicing and accepting payments. That's more of an an invoicing software. As you can see here, money management without the bookkeeping. We're focusing here on accounting and bookkeeping for self-employed, freelancers, people, right? So that really breaks down between QuickBooks Solopreneur and QuickBooks Simple Start. I personally use the Simple Start. Do I necessarily need all the features? Maybe. Honestly, the solopreneur is probably best for most people looking at it for a freelance, self-employed business, because it helps you separate business and personal expenses. And we're talking about business and personal expenses. It's really this feature here where you can select the type and you can just link one account, right? If you just have one account, maybe your checking account, maybe a credit card or something like that, you can separate everything out by business and personal, which is super useful in the case where you don't necessarily have an LLC, a business bank account, all this extra, hassle, so to speak. If you're not running your business in that respect and you're just keeping things simple, the QuickBooks Solopreneur could be a good option for you. Now, is it as scalable in the long run? You can still always upgrade from QuickBooks Solopreneur to Simple Start. However, QuickBooks does not actually allow you to downgrade from Simple Start to Solopreneur. That is one thing that I found to be kind of frustrating, but it's because of the way that the software is built. And honestly, even when you're going from Solopreneur, if you wanted to upgrade to Simple Start in the future, you still might have a little bit of a hassle. But in terms of the actual features within Solopreneur, you do still get the mileage tracking. So one feature within QuickBooks in general that something that a lot of the other software doesn't necessarily have is mileage tracking. This is absolutely crucial if you're running maybe like a lawn care business and you need to track your overall mileage when it comes to driving your vehicle, even if it's a personal vehicle. That you at least use like 50% for business use, and you're using it in your like lawn care landscaping business that you just run yourself, or a mobile detailing business as well. Like anything where you're going to be driving to your clients and doing things in person, you're going to want to be tracking the mileage, and QuickBooks does have that built in directly in their software, which is nice. Instead of having to use like a third-party mileage tracking software, you can still do that. But it is kind of nice that it is built into the Solopreneur, so you have it right in your accounting records already, and it makes things a lot easier when it comes to managing and logging your deductions and your expenses in your business. Can just make that a little bit easier. The other nice thing about QuickBooks is their overall reporting features. So I do like their reporting. Now, if you do want the more detailed reports, you will need the Simple Start. That's one of the main features why I do like the Simple Start personally for me, is the advanced reporting features. The profit loss statements, things like that are just a little bit more customizable, a bit more advanced within Simple Start compared to the Solopreneur. Solopreneur is just a bit more, like, as you can see here, basic reports. You can see your overall profit and loss and sales, but it's a lot more bare bones compared to all of the detailed reporting and analytics that you can get into within Simple Start, because Simple Start is a more scalable software that is really built more for like registered, smaller businesses, more like the LLC type of setup. But, if you are not necessarily planning on ever hiring employees and you're just kind of keep it all yourself, Solopreneur would probably be fine as well. Especially if you don't need like the contractor feature. That's not even something I personally use, the contractor feature. So, Solopreneur is probably fine for most people. It is a bit cheaper. As you can see, it's $15 a month cheaper at that $20 a month versus $35 a month. And they keep raising these prices. Intuit, if you're listening, please stop raising your prices, but I get it, inflation. So it is what it is. But in terms of other features as well, recurring invoices, that is something if you do need recurring invoices, which can help you set up like auto pay for customers, which can be really nice in the lawn care space, then you would also maybe need the Simple Start. So that is something else worth considering there. So that's really the biggest breakdown with QuickBooks. I do still like them a lot for freelancers and separating income and expenses, especially with some of the other features that do come with it. When it like the mileage tracking, especially compared to some of the other software. You can still do invoices as well. So yeah, definitely recommend QuickBooks for small, managing your self-employed business. Accounting can be really nice. I do like the reporting features in there as well. It is really like one of my personal favorite softwares. That's why I personally still do use them, just because it does help you get a very clear view of where you're at in your business. Moving on next in this list, we have FreshBooks. Now, FreshBooks, by comparison, is actually probably the accounting software that is really most geared towards freelancers specifically. I get QuickBooks is a little bit more for, people who are self-employed and have, depending on your business needs, and Wave is pretty flexible, right? Wave can kind of cover most all business types, and it is the cheapest. FreshBooks is more geared towards freelancers because they have invoicing and setups that are built more towards freelancing. And when I say that as well, they do include time tracking features, proposals, estimates. Like, especially the time tracking features are really more geared towards people who are working on client projects, right? If you are maybe a graphic designer or someone doing web design, things like that, then FreshBooks can be really, really well suited and catered to your needs in that respect. And this FreshBooks could be a really good option in that setting. You can also still manage all your income, your expenses, really. It has a lot of the same like base level features. I do like the overall UI UX of FreshBooks. I'd say it's closest to QuickBooks. Actually, it might even be a little bit better than QuickBooks in terms of the overall UI UX. They have a lot of app integrations too. Probably the most up there with QuickBooks in terms of app integrations. Now, one of the downsides to FreshBooks compared to the others, and this is really a major downside depending on how many clients you have or how you're getting paid in your business, is that it is limited. Invoicing is limited up to 5 clients. You are not limited at all on clients with QuickBooks and Wave when it comes to sending out invoices. You can send it to as many, but with FreshBooks, you're at that $19 a month, and you're only still limited to 5 clients. I think that is one of the huge downsides to FreshBooks. But hey, if you're under 5 clients, especially with the time tracking features that are directly included within FreshBooks, that actually might be a good selling point for you to use them. Just if you have 1 or 2 clients, 3 clients that you're working with, you can save money and just use the light plan, and then you're still able to do the time tracking as well, which can be really nice for managing all of the projects and the project reporting features that's in FreshBooks as well. So you can see like what are the projects that are actually most profitable for you, and the actual time that you're spending on them given how much you charge and things like that. So if you're really running like a more, as you can see, like a freelance-based business in that respect, the light plan can be really good for that. And is definitely offers like those features, especially the time tracking, that the QuickBooks and Wave just don't have the same level of features like that. Now, in my opinion, on the self-employed, the plus to spend $33 a month, it then becomes more comparable really to like the QuickBooks simple start pricing. And at that price point, like I'd maybe rather go with QuickBooks over FreshBooks, just in my situation. But because you're still limited up to 50 clients or 50 clients like most people, that probably would just be fine. And you can send recurring invoices, client retainers, things like that. I get most people watching this video aren't necessarily at that level in terms of like that many clients, but if you are, then that might make sense for you in your business. And then you still get the time tracking, which really, honestly, in my opinion, does set FreshBooks apart in terms of the project-based reporting that they have available. Even on their like light and plus plans, those are things that, tracking and seeing where everything goes in terms of the time tracking, especially. Now, if you want actual project profitability and more, that is a more advanced feature in their premium. QuickBooks does also have that in their more premium plans. Not going to be mentioning that here in this video because that's really pretty much outside of the scope. But FreshBooks can be another good option just because they really are built for freelancers. At that light plan, it is pretty enticing, and that's probably the plan that I would go with if I didn't have more than 5 clients. Otherwise, you might want to look elsewhere for maybe just third-party time tracking software. I actually have a video on time tracking software as well, which could be helpful. And then maybe you just use FreshBooks for just purely your bookkeeping and accounting. It does depend on if you want it in there. You can also save a little bit on their yearly plan as well. So it does still come out to be a little bit cheaper, but it's more comparable from solopreneur to simple start. versus the Lite and the Plus version when you're comparing like QuickBooks and FreshBooks. In terms of their specific pricing comparisons here. You can also try them for free as well. Again, if I have not mentioned it already, links are linked down below in the video description if you do want to get signed up with any of the different companies mentioned here in today's video. Again, whether that be on a free trial or whatnot, you just want to test them out and see what they're like. I would recommend doing that probably for most of these, just so you get a good feel of their overall dashboard. Yeah, so that is FreshBooks. Moving in at number 4, we have Zoho Books. Now, one of the nice perks about Zoho and Zoho Books specifically, if we take a look at their pricing page, if you are a small business, right, if you are a micro business, in terms of, let's compare the plans in detail, if you have a certain dollar amount in your business, in the free plan, you can get started completely for free. So they do have a free plan that is, again, completely for free with Zoho Books. I have mentioned Zoho Books on the channel. I will say they are a little bit more complicated and harder to get used to in terms of their overall software. And that's why they're later in this video, just because I personally find them to be a little bit more challenging to use. But they do have a completely free plan, which is nice. And you can link also the transactions. So that is a nice like perk of Zoho Books over Wave if you're looking at purely free software. You know, in my opinion, Zoho and Zoho Books is a bit more of an advanced software. One of the nice things about being in the Zoho ecosystem is they do have a wide variety of other products like CRMs, marketing services, a whole bunch, project management, bookings. So if you do want to use like other business tools, it can be really nice to get started in the Zoho ecosystem. And then Zoho Books fits right in there, so everything's all linked within their main account. Now, in terms of how the different options do break down when you're looking at, you know, the free version, the standard, the professional, it does come down to like recurring expenses. And now the bank reconciliation is the most important part, and the mileage tracking as well is included in the completely free version. Again, in my opinion, it is a little bit more cluttered in Zoho Books compared to like Wave, QuickBooks, or FreshBooks even. From my personal experience, you are also limited on the total amount of invoices per year, but you can send recurring invoices on Zoho Books as well. In terms of the users, that's more so where they break out their different pricing plans. So if you are just a single person, the free version probably would just be fine for you, and you could get away with using them. You know, for a lot of people, it could still be a really good option. Now, I do believe they used to have, maybe they actually got rid of it. It was like a limitation of $50,000 in annual revenue on the free plan. That may or may not still be there. It does not look like it's there anymore. So that may actually be gone as a new feature, that they got rid of the income limitation. That was one of the main limitations with the free version of Zoho Books previously. So if that's gone, then the free version, I mean, that's pretty cool. And if you do want more users in the future, you know, it's pretty flexible in terms of upgrading if you want to do that. So yeah, that's Zoho Books. I do also have a tutorial on them too. Like pretty much all the different accounting software in this video, I have tutorials going over them. So Zoho Books could be another good option if you want something just completely for free. In my opinion, I don't love it as much as the other ones higher on this list, but it could still be a good option. Moving on, last but not least, we have Xero. This is pronounced Xero. It's spelled Xero. Now, Xero, in my opinion, isn't necessarily the best for freelancers and self-employed people, unless you're really looking at doing and digging into double entry accounting, where you're going to be managing your overall balance sheets and tracking things more like how an accountant would, than just someone who is making money as a freelancer and just wants to see what their overall profit and loss statement is, tracking income and expenses and separating personal and business expenses. Xero is more built for accountants, so it's later on this list because of that respect. But if you are really looking at getting into accounting and you really want to manage your books in that way, Xero could be a really good option for you in terms of what they offer. So you can automatically import transactions. Let's just go right to the pricing so you can get an idea of that. Now, they currently do have a promotion where they're setting things up to be really cheap. But it does say, as you can see here, that their early, growing, and established plan pricing is going to be increasing from that $15, $42. So for most people, probably going to be looking at that $15 a month plan, which is pretty comparable to a lot of the other options here in this list. It's actually cheaper. It's cheaper than QuickBooks. It's cheaper than even FreshBooks as well when you're looking at that paid software entry. The downside to it is you are limited to 20 quotes and invoices and up to 5 bills. So you are a little bit more limited, but you do get the bank transactions and you can see your overall cash flow business snapshot. You don't necessarily have as many of the other tools as well with Xero. Like, you don't really get the mileage tracking the same way. You also don't get like the time tracking either. So those are things that, might be drawbacks to you with Xero in terms of managing your business. Now, if you do plan on running like payroll for yourself, they do have an integration with Gusto as well. Again, I would say Xero is better suited for higher scale, like small businesses, versus necessarily freelancers and people who are in self-employed, which is why it is last on this list, but they still could be a good option for you depending on your needs. I would still maybe recommend trying them out. My personal opinion, like really at the end of the day, QuickBooks and Wave are probably the best two options, followed shortly behind with FreshBooks. And those are really like kind of my top 3. That's why they're the top 3 in this video. So if you do want to check out any of the companies mentioned here in today's video, you can go and check out those links linked down below in the video description. If you found this video helpful or enjoyed it, then be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Anyway, guys, that was all for today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.